In this lecture, we're going to talk about running water. And these are all the types of topics we're going to cover, but let's start out with the hydrologic cycle. So the hydrologic cycle is how water circulates on the surface of the earth. So there's not a lot of new water that's added or taken away from the system. Water is not generally created or destroyed. It's just in these different states like solid, liquid, and gas. A lot of water ends up in the ocean, and that water tends to be returned to other places through a process called evaporation. This is driven by the energy of the sun, and it evaporates water, changes it from a liquid form into a gaseous form at the surface of the ocean, and then it transports it all around the earth where it falls as precipitation. This precipitation can be rain or snow, and in some cases it's taking water from zero elevation here and returning it to some of the highest elevations on the surface of the earth, the tops of the mountains, as snow. Once it gets up to these elevations, the land, somewhere on the land, then this water either runs off of the land, and that means it goes across the surface of the land until it joins a stream or a river, and then eventually it's typically returned to the ocean after that. However, other water actually infiltrates into the ground through this process called infiltration, and then it's available as groundwater. One of the important things about this process is the water is purified by this whole process. As it evaporates, the salts are left behind, so it's a distillation process where just pure water is being evaporated away. And as the water precipitates and infiltrates into the ground, it can once again be filtered during this process. A couple of other terms involved in the hydrologic cycle are the two circled here that I'd like you to know. Transpiration, which means the process that primarily which vegetation returns water vapor into the atmosphere, and sublimation. Sublimation is similar to evaporation, but evaporation is happening with liquid water, as in the ocean, and sublimation is when things go directly from ice or snow into water vapor. As we talk about water in this class, it's important to remember that most of the water is tied up in the oceans and pretty much, except for transportation, not really available for human use. You may have heard that 2/3 of the earth is covered by oceans. That's true. Oceans are also deep. So if we're talking about the volume of water on the surface of the earth, more than 97% of the volume of water on the surface of the earth is tied up in oceans. That remaining 2.8%, we can kind of expand that graph to show it here. Almost all of that is tied up in glaciers. And once again, not really usable to humans very much. Primarily these two glaciers that are tying up all this water are the Greenland ice sheet and the Antarctic ice sheet, and there are some very, very minor volumes tied up in mountain glaciers as well. The next biggest slice of the pie is groundwater, which is not easily available to us. We have to dig holes in the ground or put wells into the ground to access the groundwater. But that tiny little sliver that's left is where we find our stream water, our river water, and our water in lakes and other places. This is available to us as a resource, from drinking water to recreational. But as we're going to see, that water in the streams also does a lot of work because it's starting out at high elevations and it's returning to the ocean, which is at an elevation of 0.